Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. I've always lived with one foot on the tarmac and the other chasing the next destination. From sunrise hikes in the Andes to late-night tuk-tuk rides through Bangkok, I've seen the world in all its beauty and danger, but nothing prepared me for the horror that unfolded during my layover in Istanbul. It started like any other travel day. A delayed flight, a bitter espresso, and a crowded terminal full of tired faces staring into glowing screens. I was en route from Cairo to Prague, stuck for 7 hours at Istanbul airport. I found a quiet bench in a corner near gate B12, plugged in my phone, and sank into my travel journal. That's when the first scream echoed. I didn't think much of it. Airports are stressful places. People cry over missed flights and lost passports. But this scream was raw, ripped straight from someone's soul. Others heard it too, heads lifted. A few folks stood up, squinting down the corridor toward the noise. Then came a second scream, louder, closer. I stood. My pack was already at my feet. Years of backpacking had made me efficient, always ready to move. I slung it over my shoulder and headed toward the commotion. That's when the crowd erupted. People were shouting, scattering in all directions like birds in a storm. I saw a woman stumble out from around the corner, her blouse torn, face pale, and eyes wide with pure panic. Behind her, a man in a suit limped forward, arms outstretched. He didn't look right. His mouth hung open. His neck was twisted unnaturally, and his hands, they were covered in something dark. I froze. He grabbed the woman from behind. She screamed again, shrill and sharp, and then it stopped. Just like that. The terminal turned into chaos. Security rushed in, shouting commands in Turkish. Some travelers tried to help, others bolted. I did what my instincts told me to do, blend in and move, quickly. I headed for the nearest staff door. A janitor had propped it open earlier, and now it sat ajar like an invitation. I slipped inside and found myself in a back hallway lined with cleaning supplies and forgotten luggage carts. The noise outside grew louder. More screams, shouts, then a sound I couldn't place, like meat being torn from a roast. Wet. Final. That was the moment I knew this wasn't a panic over a gate change, or even a loose criminal. This was something else. Something worse. I moved deeper into the corridor, trying to stay calm, mapping out escape routes in my mind. The overhead lights flickered slightly, but I kept going until I found a service elevator. I pressed the button and waited. Ding. The doors opened to reveal an empty car. I stepped inside, hit the button for the ground level, and held my breath. As the elevator hummed to life, I could still hear chaos behind the walls. 12 hours, that's all it took for the world to start unraveling. And I had just begun hour 1. The elevator doors slid open to a dimly lit hallway beneath the airport. A place travelers weren't supposed to see. No announcements, no duty-free shops. Just concrete, metal, and the echo of unseen machines. I stepped out, moving quietly, alert to every sound. My boots made soft clicks against the tile. Overhead, a ventilation fan spun lazily, rattling with each turn. The air smelled like oil and stale coffee. I crept past a line of service carts and stacks of cargo crates. Somewhere above me, the chaos continued, muffled now. But the memory of that scream, the way it just stopped, stayed with me. I pulled out my phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, just a black screen mocking me. I shoved it back into my jacket and pressed forward. Around the next bend, I spotted a large metal door with a red handle. It looked like an emergency exit, though the markings were in Turkish. I reached for it. A loud crash echoed behind me. I spun around. A cart had toppled, rolling on its side, but no one was there. No footsteps. No voices. Just silence. I backed away slowly, turning toward the door again, and then I saw it. Someone, or something, was crawling from beneath the broken cart. Its movements were jerky, unnatural. Elbows scraped the ground as it dragged itself forward. One leg twisted behind it, useless. But it kept coming. Its head snapped up and I saw its eyes. They were cloudy. Wrong. Whatever humanity had once lived in that face was gone. I didn't wait. I yanked the red handle and stumbled into a stairwell. Slamming the door behind me, I pounded up the stairs 2 at a time. My lungs burned, but I kept climbing, desperate for daylight, for anything that didn't feel like a trap. I burst through another door into what looked like a customs inspection zone. Empty conveyor belts, X-ray machines, and scattered luggage filled the room. I didn't see any people, alive or otherwise. That was almost worse. I moved slowly, scanning for movement, gripping the only thing I had for defense, a collapsible tripod from my backpack. I'd used it for landscape shots in Morocco. Now, it felt like the only thing between me and whatever had taken over the terminal. I crept past an abandoned security station. Papers fluttered on the floor. A radio crackled softly on the desk, then fizzled out with a high-pitched whine. Suddenly, a voice called out from somewhere nearby, "Hey, you!" I turned sharply. A man appeared from behind a stack of suitcases. Early 40s, wearing a ground crew vest. He looked shaken but alert. "You're not one of them," he said, eyes wide, voice hushed. "Right?" "No," I said, barely above a whisper. "What's going on?" He shook his head slowly. "They're sick or something. It started an hour ago. Flight from Rome came in and some guy collapsed at the gate. Bit someone. Then more of them showed up. Now the whole terminal's locked down. No one's answering the radio." I stared at him. Did anyone make it out? Not that I saw. Security tried, but they changed. Fast. Changed. That word stuck in my mind like a splinter. The man, his name was Murat, told me he knew a way out. There was a supply tunnel that connected the airport to a nearby maintenance building. If we made it there, maybe we could find a car. Maybe we could escape. Maybe. We didn't talk much after that, just moved. Fast and quiet, with every breath tight in our chests. I stuck close behind him as he led me through back corridors, past empty staff lounges and dark offices. But the silence didn't last. Just as we reached the service tunnel entrance, we heard footsteps, fast, uneven, several of them. Then came that awful sound again. Not a growl. Not a voice, just a wet, gnashing noise. And it was getting closer. We didn't wait to see what made that sound. Murat yanked open the steel hatch to the supply tunnel, and we scrambled inside. It was pitch black at first, then dim emergency lights flickered on, red, pulsing, like a heartbeat echoing through concrete. The tunnel stretched ahead of us like the throat of some sleeping beast. Pipes ran along the ceiling. The floor was wet. Every step we took echoed back, making it impossible to tell how close they were behind us. Murat pulled out a small flashlight and handed it to me. "Only use it when you need to. It'll draw attention," he whispered. I nodded. My hands were shaking. We kept low, moving fast but carefully. The tunnel curved and split in places. Murat seemed to know the way, but even he kept glancing behind us. I could tell he was scared. I was too. Suddenly, we heard something. A scrape. Not loud, but close. Metal against concrete. We stopped. Murat raised a finger to his lips and pressed his ear to the wall. I didn't breathe. Then, far down the tunnel, something moved across the corridor just for a second. A shape, too fast to track, too wrong to ignore. It didn't walk like a person. It scuttled. We pressed on. "Only 100 meters left," Murat whispered, pointing toward a rusted ladder that led up to a hatch above us. That's when the noise returned. Behind us. Closer this time. Fast. I turned and flicked on the flashlight just in time to see 3 figures rounding the bend. They moved at an unnatural pace, limbs swinging wildly, feet slapping the floor like wet towels. Their faces were gray in the light, jaws slack, teeth stained. They saw us. They ran. Murat shoved me toward the ladder. "Go! Now!" I didn't argue. I scrambled up the rungs as fast as I could, nearly losing my grip halfway up. I reached the hatch and slammed my palm against the release bar. It didn't budge. "Come on," I whispered. "Come on." Below me, Murat was halfway up the ladder, the creatures just feet behind him. I braced and slammed my shoulder against the hatch. It gave. I tumbled onto the floor above, a maintenance garage of some kind. Fluorescent lights buzzed weakly overhead. Murat climbed through just as one of them grabbed his boot. He kicked hard, pulling free, and I slammed the hatch shut, locking the bar across it. They pounded from below. Screeches of frustration rang through the metal. But the hatch held for now. Murat was gasping for air, so was I. We didn't say a word. Just lay there for a few seconds, listening to the chaos below. Eventually, the pounding stopped. That silence felt just as bad. We got up and scanned the room. It looked like no one had been here in hours. A broken vending machine leaned in the corner. Tools scattered across a bench. On the far wall, a small locker room sat half open, fluorescent light flickering above the entrance. "We can't stay here," Murat said, steadying himself. I agreed. I peeked out through a dusty window. A service road stretched out into the early morning light. The sky had shifted from black to gray, and in the distance I saw smoke curling above the airport terminal. But no cars, no people. Just stillness. Then I spotted it, a small maintenance van parked under a corrugated metal overhang. "Think it has keys?" I asked. Murat shrugged. "Only one way to find out." We grabbed a crowbar from the bench just in case and made our way outside. The van door was unlocked. So were the doors to everything else. That's when we started noticing the blood. Smeared across the walls. Dripping from the door handles. Painted in handprints across the glass. Whoever had been here last didn't leave quietly. The van's interior smelled like gasoline, metal, and something else. Something rotten. But it was empty, no bodies. Just a key ring dangling from the ignition. Murat turned it. The engine coughed to life. We looked at each other, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Let's get out of here," he said, shifting into gear. We peeled out of the lot, tires squealing on the slick pavement. The sun was trying to break through the haze, but the clouds hung low and orange with smoke. The main road that led away from the airport was littered with debris, luggage, overturned carts, even a suitcase split open in the middle of the lane. We passed a crashed shuttle bus on its side. Its windows were cracked, frame bent, no sign of movement. But the silence was deceptive. As we rounded a corner onto the highway, we saw the first car pile up. 3 sedans had slammed into a delivery truck. Doors hung open. One still had its blinker on, flashing into nothing. "We're not going that way," Murat muttered, eyes darting around. He turned down a narrow access road, the tires bumping over the shoulder. I spotted a fuel gauge on empty and pointed at it. "We won't make it far." "We don't need far," he said. "Just enough." Enough for what? He didn't say. As we drove, the city skyline came into view. Istanbul stretched before us like a sleeping giant, unaware it had been bitten. We passed shuttered shops, silent gas stations, and a burned-out sedan at the foot of an overpass. Murat slowed. Something moved inside the wrecked car. We both tensed, watching closely as a hand, just a hand, reached out from a broken window. It scratched weakly at the asphalt, fingers twitching. Then it stopped moving. We didn't get out to check. The further we drove, the more it became clear. This wasn't just the airport. Whatever was happening, it was spreading. Fast. Our detour took us toward a neighborhood I recognized from a past trip. Modest homes, corner cafes, a fruit stand I once photographed. Now it was all quiet. Too quiet. And then we heard it. Screaming. We skidded to a stop near a row of apartments. A woman was leaning out from a third-story window, shouting in Turkish. I didn't understand all of it, but the panic was clear. She pointed down at the street where someone was running, limping, toward us. A man in a torn business suit, face pale, one eye nearly swollen shut. He was shouting too, calling for help. But behind him, 3 figures burst from a side alley. They were faster. No hesitation, no fear, just speed and instinct. They caught him. We saw it happen, heard it. We didn't stay to see more. Murat hit the gas, and we tore down the road, the woman still screaming above us, the man's voice replaced by silence. No one was coming to save anyone. After a few more turns, we found a small mechanic's garage. The door was open, lights off, looked abandoned. Murat pulled the van inside and shut the door behind us. "We need fuel," I said. "We need rest," Murat replied, wiping sweat from his brow. I didn't argue. We barricaded the doors with whatever we could find. Tool cabinets, chains, a tire rack. Then we sat behind the front desk, out of view from the windows, breathing in the musty air, every nerve on edge. I looked at my watch. It had been 6 hours. 6 hours since the first scream. 6 hours since the world changed. We sat in silence for a while. The garage was dim, lit only by the weak rays of sunlight creeping through dusty skylights. Murat checked a portable radio he found behind the counter. He turned the dial slowly, searching for anything, news, voices, even static. Then we heard it, a faint broadcast, English. "Repeat, all citizens are advised to avoid major roadways. Stay indoors. If you are within range of a designated safe point, proceed cautiously. Do not approach anyone exhibiting erratic or aggressive behavior." The voice was calm, measured. But that only made it feel worse, like someone trying not to panic while reading a script. "What's a safe point?" I asked. "Refugee zones," Murat said. "If any are still standing." The broadcast looped, then another voice took over, this time in Turkish. The tone was similar, reassuring words delivered like sandbags against a rising flood. I pulled out my phone, no signal, no data, my battery was dying. Murat handed me a power bank. "Take it, yours is probably better than mine." I hesitated. "You sure?" He nodded. "We're in this together now." There was a moment of stillness. No sounds outside, no motion. For the first time since this began, I let myself think. Not just react, but think. What was this outbreak? A virus? A chemical? Something else? And how had it reached here so fast? Before I could ask, a loud clang rang out from the rear of the garage. We froze. Then we heard it again. Metal on metal, not a crash, more like a knock, followed by dragging, something heavy scraping along the concrete floor. We crouched low, weapons in hand. I had a crowbar. Murat gripped a wrench. The noise moved, slow and steady, toward the side wall. Then silence. I crept toward the garage's small interior window that looked into the service bay. I peeked through a gap in the blinds. There was something inside. At first, I thought it was a person hunched over, maybe injured. But then it tilted its head in a sharp, jerky motion. Too sharp. Its shoulder twitched, its arm hung loosely, almost unhinged. And when it moved again, it dragged one foot behind it, scraping the floor. It wasn't looking for anything. It was listening. Murat whispered, "Don't move." We didn't breathe. The thing sniffed the air, its mouth opened just enough to show broken, blackened teeth. A growl, low and sickly, rose in its throat. Then it turned and shuffled back into the shadows, vanishing into the dark corner of the bay. We stayed still for minutes. Eventually, Murat pointed toward the loft above the garage. "We need higher ground." We climbed the narrow stairs carefully. The loft was dusty, filled with old boxes, tires, and a cot covered in a stained sheet. It offered a vantage point at least. We could see down into the garage and out through the front window if we moved the right boxes. We settled in behind cover. The cot creaked as I sat. Murat stayed standing, peering through a crack in the upper wall. He whispered, "You ever seen something like this before, in your travels?" I shook my head. Nothing even close. He nodded slowly. "I've seen chaos, riots, wars, but this..." He didn't finish. Outside, the wind picked up. A sign across the street banged loosely against its frame. Then came the distant sound of sirens, followed by something far worse. Gunshots, close, burst fire, then shouting, then silence. We waited. Another scream broke the quiet. It was near. Too near. The scream faded, swallowed by the city's endless silence. I gripped the crowbar tighter. Murat crouched by the loft's edge, peering down through a sliver between two crates. His eyes moved fast, scanning the street below. "There's someone out there," he whispered, running. I crawled beside him and looked. A young man sprinted across the road, weaving between abandoned cars. His shirt was torn, blood down one sleeve, but he moved fast, desperate. He kept looking over his shoulder. Then we saw why. 3 of them, figures chasing him at full tilt, not stumbling, sprinting, all arms and hunger. The man dove through an alley, and they vanished after him. We didn't hear a struggle, but we didn't hear him scream either. Murat sat back against the wall. "If we don't leave soon, we'll be trapped here." I nodded. "We need fuel and supplies. There's a gas station about 5 blocks west, if it's still intact." We gathered what we could: 2 tools for weapons, a flashlight, a pocket knife, a nearly empty bottle of water. I wrapped my scarf tight around my neck, not for warmth, for nerves. We eased down the stairs and crept toward the back door, where we'd last heard that thing. Murat unlocked it, opening it just enough to peek out. Clear. We slipped out into the alley. The wind had shifted. Smoke was in the air, thick and bitter. Somewhere, something big was burning. It coated everything in a dull orange haze, like twilight had come early. We stayed low, moving between dumpsters and walls, trying not to draw attention. At the end of the alley, we saw a man standing still in the street. Too still. His head twitched as if sniffing. One arm hung at an odd angle. His shirt was soaked through, dark and shiny, but what chilled me most was his silence. No groans, no growling. just stillness and breathing. We backed away slowly, and he didn't follow. We ducked behind a delivery truck and ran. The gas station was ahead, and it looked, miraculously, untouched. The front doors were closed, no broken glass, lights off. A truck was parked beside the pumps. Murat checked the door. Locked. I circled around and peeked through the window. Inside, shelves were intact. Coolers sealed. A backpack rested on the floor behind the counter. Someone had been here. Or still was. Murat tapped on the glass. Back window, let's try it. We found a small window near the storage room. It was cracked but loose. Murat wedged it open with the wrench, and we climbed inside one at a time, landing softly on cardboard boxes. The store was quiet, not a sound. We moved quickly but carefully, grabbing bottled water, protein bars, and canned food. Murat found a gas can behind the counter, half full. He held it up like it was gold. Then we heard something. From the bathroom at the back. A thud. Then another. We froze. The door handle rattled. We ducked behind the counter, hearts pounding. The door creaked open. A figure stepped out, limping, arms shaking. Its head turned slowly, and its jaw hung open, slack like it had forgotten how to close. I didn't breathe. Murat slowly raised his wrench. But then, the figure collapsed. Just dropped. We waited, nothing. We approached carefully. It was a woman, mid-30s, badly wounded, barely breathing. Her skin was pale, and one leg had been wrapped in cloth torn from her shirt. She looked up at us, dazed. Not turned, still human. Barely. She croaked something in Turkish. Murat leaned in, then turned to me. She says they got her family. She's been hiding here for hours. She thought we were more of them. I knelt beside her and offered a bottle of water. She sipped slowly. "What do we do?" I asked. Murat didn't answer right away. "We can't stay. She can't walk. If we wait, more will come." We looked at each other, then back at her. We had a choice to make, and only minutes to make it. She looked up at us, barely conscious, one hand gripping her wounded leg. Her breath rattled in her chest. Every second we hesitated felt like time stolen from somewhere else. Time we didn't have. Murat exhaled slowly. We can't carry her and outrun those things. I didn't answer. I just crouched beside her again, my fingers trembling as I took a clean rag from a nearby shelf. She watched me, eyes glassy but aware. I didn't need to speak her language to understand what she was asking. Why help me? Because I had to. I wrapped the cloth tighter around her thigh. The bleeding had mostly stopped, but infection was another matter. I handed her another water bottle. She clutched it like it weighed 100 pounds. Murat finally spoke again. "There's a service card out back. If we rig something with rope, we can pull her. Will it work? No idea." We worked fast, found rope, bungee cords, and a battered garden cart behind the station. It wasn't ideal, but it would roll. We patted it with towels, lifted her gently in, and tied her in place as best we could. She didn't cry out once, not from pain, not from fear. The plan was simple. Head north. The broadcast mentioned a safe point near the outskirts of town. If it was still standing, it'd be our best shot. We rolled out slowly, sticking to alleys, weaving between empty cars. The streets were filled with shadows and the quiet buzz of something waiting. The world felt paused, like it was holding its breath until we heard the howl. It wasn't a dog. It wasn't anything I could name. It started low and built into a sharp, rising pitch. Too long, too loud, too broken, and it came from nearby. Then another answered, and another. We moved faster. Murat pulled the cart while I kept watch behind us. Every broken window felt like an eye, every creak like a threat. Then the street ahead of us shifted. Figures, 4 or 5, emerged from a side street. They didn't see us yet, but they were moving fast, like they had somewhere to be, or someone to chase. We ducked behind an overturned van. Murat whispered, "Change of route, through that apartment block." We pushed through a half-open gate into a narrow courtyard. The door to the building was open, barely hanging on its hinges. We hauled the cart inside, pulling it over broken tile, shattered glass crunching beneath our boots. Inside was worse. This wasn't just abandoned. It had been ransacked, torn apart, furniture overturned. Graffiti scrawled on the walls. No lights. Just the beam of my flashlight dancing across destruction. Then I saw something that stopped me cold. Children's drawings, taped to the wall. Colorful crayon houses, smiling stick people, bright suns, all still taped neatly while the world outside rotted. We pushed up the stairs, 1 floor at a time, using the second level as a lookout. From there, we could see the safe point. A stadium, floodlights, barricades, vehicles parked outside, and people. Small figures moved near the entrance. Soldiers, maybe. Survivors. Real people. "We're close," I whispered. But getting there wasn't going to be easy. The street between us and the stadium was crawling. Dozens of them. Maybe more. All wandering in chaotic lines, colliding, splitting apart again. No clear pattern, just noise and motion. We had to think. "Fire," Murat said. "Smoke and noise. If we set a fire here, they might move toward it." We gathered what we could: papers, old curtains, wood from a broken table. I found a half-full bottle of cleaning fluid. Within minutes, we had a small bonfire burning in a metal trash can just outside the building's front entrance. It didn't take long. The creatures reacted fast. One caught the scent, then another. Their heads jerked toward the building. They started to gather. Dozens, then more. They surrounded the fire like moths, twitching, groaning, swaying in broken rhythm. We took our chance. We crept out the back stairwell, through a tight alley that led north. Murat pulled the cart with one arm, wrench in the other. I led the way, scanning every window, every rooftop. The stadium was closer now. I could see lights. And something else. Barbed wire fencing, soldiers in vests, people being checked and waved through. We were going to make it, until the scream came from behind us. The woman. She'd passed out, and fallen from the cart. Her body hit the ground with a dull thud. The sound wasn't loud, but it was enough. The scream tore through the still air, raw and involuntary. Murat turned instantly, crouching beside her. "She's breathing. Barely." His voice was tight. I looked behind us. Some of the ones that had been circling the fire had stopped. They were turning, one by one. Then they started to move. "Fast. We have to go," I hissed. Murat looked toward the stadium. 2 blocks. We carry her." He didn't wait for an answer. He pulled her limp form up, slinging her across his back with effort. I grabbed the wrench and flashlight and took point. We ran. The world shrank to a tunnel of adrenaline. Each footstep thudded through my body. My breath came in ragged bursts. I didn't dare look back. The moans behind us grew sharper. Closer. We reached the last street, a wide open stretch between us and the stadium gates. And that's when we saw it. Chaos. Dozens of people were crowding the entrance. Soldiers tried to keep order, shouting instructions. Behind them, I spotted armored trucks, emergency lights, flood lamps cutting through the smoke. "Wait for clearance," someone yelled. "We're at capacity." "No," I shouted. "We've got an injured woman." One of the soldiers turned, spotted us. He waved. "Come forward, quickly." We sprinted across the open road. Murat stumbled once, nearly dropping her, but kept moving. The stadium gates loomed closer. The creatures burst from the shadows behind us. I turned to see them. Half a dozen, maybe more, sprinting. Their hands clawed the pavement, eyes wide with that terrible hunger. "Open the gate," I screamed. The soldiers reacted fast. A section of the barricade swung open just wide enough for us to pass. Murat shoved through first, nearly collapsing. I dived after him. Gunfire erupted behind us. A wall of noise, controlled, focused. The gate slammed shut. I lay on the ground, lungs heaving, heart pounding. Soldiers pushed the barricade back into place and reinforced it. The moans outside grew wild, then distant. Someone helped me to my feet. A medic rushed to the woman already shouting for a stretcher. We'd made it. We were inside. Safe, for now. They ushered us toward a check-in tent, where a woman in uniform asked our names, countries, injuries. She handed us bottled water, blankets, and small paper IDs. Inside the stadium, people huddled under blankets, stared into space, whispered prayers or nothing at all. It smelled like sweat, smoke, and fear. I sat beside Murat on the cold floor, both of us staring straight ahead. The woman we'd brought in was being tended to nearby. She was stable. No one said thank you. No one needed to. Around us, the night wore on. Helicopters buzzed overhead. The loudspeakers crackled with updates, instructions, pleas for calm. 12 hours. That's all it had been. Half a day. It felt like a lifetime. Murat finally broke the silence. "You still have your passport?" I nodded, pulling it from my pocket. Slightly torn, but still there. "You?" He held his up, smirked faintly. "Figures. We survived the end of the world. And still have to show ID." I laughed just once. It felt foreign, but real. Somewhere in the stadium, a baby cried. Outside, the city burned. Inside, we waited. Because this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Yeah. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.